This is Dream Chasers, episode 42, with Yehudah Greenberg. Hey guys, what's going on? I'm Adam Carswell, and welcome to Dream Chasers, Interviews with the Future. On Dream Chasers, we interview individuals with supernatural amounts of potential based on early success in their careers. Thank you for tuning in. Now let's get straight to the interview. Hey guys, this is Adam Carswell, and today I'm joined by Yehudah Greenberg. Yehudah is the owner of FBM Plus. He's originally from Brooklyn, New York, and now lives in beautiful Chestnut Ridge, New York. He has a Talmudic education, which we're going to have him enlighten us on in a little bit here because I find it very captivating. Yehudah, thank you for being on the show, and do you have any opening remarks for our listeners?
So first of all, Adam, thank you so much for having me. It's really an honor, and I hope that I can enlighten your audience as much as you hope that I could do that, because I really want the best for you, and this is just a great opportunity for me. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So two things, as I just mentioned. One, FBM Plus, you were kind of telling me offline a little bit how you might want to rebrand that, or how the name is not representative of the business, at least is the way that you would like to see it. And then also tell us a little bit more about the Talmudic education, because I think it's pretty unique.
Okay, sure. So I'll start with the first one. So FBM Plus is an acronym for Fan-Based Marketing, which is my actual LLC. It's the LLC which I formed last year when I decided that I actually do want to be my own company. Now, the reason I shortened it into FBM Plus is because I really don't like the name. Now, the thought process behind Fan-Based Marketing, which was the original, which is currently my LLC, is because I was very inspired by the concept, which is discussed at length very often by one of my earlier marketing role models, Jim Cockrum, where he describes how businesses have it all wrong. Businesses, they come up with a product and then they look for people to sell them to. And that's why 80, 90, 95% of businesses have a very difficult time where they fail. The surefire way to have a business is to first create a fan base, create people who want what you will be offering them, and then ideally ask them what they would want you to sell them, and sell it to them. And that is really the driving force behind many of the internet millionaires that you see around. They have a gathering, they have a following of people that are just throwing money at them because they admire the person, they admire what that person can benefit them. And very often the person just asks them, hey, what do you guys want? Do you want a course about this? Let me test this idea on you. And if the response is positive, then they just throw it out there. So I had the idea that what businesses really need is a fan base. They need a base of people that they are going to sell to, and then they can develop a product that they will sell to them. Now, the reason I don't like the name anymore is because the name fan base doesn't really meet the audience doesn't meet my intended audience where they are at. Most business owners are not looking to create a fan base. It's something that I would have to educate them that is the proper way to go. So if I go out and advertise myself as somebody who I create fan bases for you, then I would get a bunch of blank looks. That's a violation of one of the primary marketing rules, which is meet your audience where they are at, meet your target where they are at. And currently, business owners are not looking to form this fan base, and that's why I try to ditch the title and go to FBM Plus, which just sounds catchy. We'll see where that goes down the road.
Yes, and we hear you're one of your four boys in the background. I know you were saying you're a family guy. Tell us a little bit about your children, and then also I guess we can tie that in with the Talmudic education, because I'm sure they're going to be getting that education as well one day.
Right, I certainly hope so. Yes, I do have four boys, age ranging from 10 to 18 months. You heard the 18-month-old, not the 10-year-old in the background. And we hope that someday they will go through a similar system to the one I went through, which is typical of an American-born Talmudic student. I wouldn't categorize all religious Jews as going through this, or even all whatever you want to call it. But a very common trajectory of a Talmudic student is a period of study post-high school in a Talmud-intensive institution in America. Very often we travel to Israel and study institutions there for a period of years. In my personal journey, I studied there for 2.5 years. And then many of us continue our studies back here in America in a very large yeshiva institution called BMG, Beis Medrash Gavoa, which is in Lakewood, New Jersey. So in Lakewood, but while I was studying in Lakewood, New Jersey, I had 3 of my 4 children. And I had this little one over here in Chestnut Ridge where I moved 2 years ago.
Wow. Yeah, it sounds like a unique path and definitely one that helped you get to where you're at. And I have to say, Yehudah, it is time to step into the next level chamber. When did you realize this was something you wanted to take to the next level?
Okay, I love the question. My first introduction to marketing was when I was working for a company that dealt with Amazon. And I thought, hey, why don't I try to help this company out by looking into marketing? Because, on Amazon you're selling. Little did I know that Amazon, you're not really selling as selling means in the real world. In Amazon, you're feeding the beast called Amazon. And if you're nice to the beast, Amazon will sell your stuff for you. So a lot of what I was digging up was not really relevant to Amazon, but it was cool stuff. I read the book, The Irresistible Offer by Mark Joyvan. I think that's his name. I was just fascinated by the idea that it's already an old book, but he was speaking about how a lot of advertising today is garbage. It's just it's either annoying, it doesn't work, and I started looking with those eyes. There's so much advertisement out there that just doesn't work, and it's so sad. There are billions and billions of dollars poured into it, not by one business, but any small business very often will have wasted thousands and thousands of dollars in marketing. And that one book really opened my eyes that there's really a better way. What I took out of that book was that the incredible power of a tagline or a slogan, that's free real estate. If you have your name printed anywhere and you have a slogan which sells right underneath that, then it can actually sell your business. And if you don't use the slogan or tagline to sell, then you missed an opportunity, which is very sad. So I was looking around and I saw very many opportunities that were missed. And that's when I tried just getting as much knowledge as possible, try to figure out what are business owners missing, why is there such a disconnect between businesses, what they're selling, and the people that they're selling to. And that was the beginning of my journey.
Yeah, wow, that's a very interesting point that you make there, because I just think about a slogan or a logo can really go that far. I think that's something that we all realize, but we don't realize it until someone like you helps us remember, oh, wow, like it's that important.
Right. Yeah. That book really is based around it is very largely based around Domino's Pizza, which their slogan used to be, it was long and it wasn't catchy, but it worked. Their slogan was, we'll get it to you in 30 minutes or your money back, which right there sells the business. It's been credited with being as important as anything else they've ever done to grow their business. They don't have that tagline anymore because there was some sort of car accident and they had to get rid of it. But for a while it worked, he just analyzed that slogan and what it does, how it sells the business, how it creates this irresistible itch to the right audience. Right? If I'm not hungry and I hear that slogan, then it's not going to speak to me. But to somebody who might be considering pizza, well, that speaks very, very well.
Yeah, and you also bring this to my attention now, because I remember one thing that did help me gravitate towards you was on your LinkedIn. You in your is either in your header or in your profile picture, you have kind of like a as seen on ABC, NBC, et cetera, et cetera. First of all, what were you doing on those major networks, and how did you get the idea to incorporate that with your marketing? Because it definitely draws traffic to you.
Right. So that's a great question. And that's really, I guess you could call it a guilty pleasure of marketers, which is that on one hand, we really are manipulators. And the reason hopefully we don't feel bad about it, because we're doing it not just for a good reason, but we're doing good things. We're helping people with what they need. So I do have to admit that those logos are a bit of manipulation. I was featured on NBC CBS, but it was pretty easy to do. It was really just paying a fee for a media contact who has rights to use these platforms and actually publishes on some sort of page that is related to CBS, related to NBC, and I could legally claim without any risk that I was quoted on NBC, but it's really not something that anybody would see. But it is those logos on their page, and hopefully it accomplished me getting on this podcast, and someone's going to learn from that podcast, so I don't feel bad about it. But I do have to come clean that you're not going to find some long, lengthy interview of Yehudah Greenberg on NBC. It really is just a gimmick.
Right. Yeah. And hey, that's the power of transparency right there too. Being real, being honest. Maybe it looks like you were on there, as you mentioned, you were referenced, but I think for anyone listening, including myself now, we feel like we're a little bit more relatable or connected to you because of that level of transparency. So thank you for that.
Hopefully I come across as a little bit more human, I'm not some superstar that, wow, they're running after me. But I guess the interview, so it's good.
Yeah. What would you say, Yehudah, is your why? The reason why you've chosen to pursue the business that you pursue?
Yeah, so that's very interesting. The why, this is something which I struggle with because on one hand, there are very many discussions about the why being to help people and to get out and go and also profit on the side. Mm-hmm. And, it never sits well with me because, like, come on, you're in it for the money. So I had to juggle that. I'm not even sure myself. I could just very simply say that I do have two whys. I have one why in the sense of my personal gain, my personal benefit, which is, as we mentioned before, I am a Talmudic student, and I do wish to live a lifestyle which would allow me to pursue my studies further. So the way to do that generally is not with a 9-to-5 job, and that is why I do have every interest in going out and running my own business and helping people out. Now, that being said, I do have a second why, which is I do have a real internal drive to help people, particularly small businesses, who, as I mentioned earlier, are getting very burned by just poor advertising practices, possibly well-meaning marketers who sell a service, but they don't deal with the whole picture, and they do a great job with their service, but unfortunately that service doesn't really help a business. Like, for example, there are many weekly periodicals that come out that are printed in my community, I'm sure in many others, and the ads that are printed in these periodicals many of them are gorgeous. They are just eye-popping, but they're basically worthless. It's a shame. You have a graphic artist doing the best job he or she could do, and you have someone who's printing a periodical, and there's nothing wrong with that, but the business owner who doesn't understand proper marketing strategy and marketing tactics is unfortunately just purchasing these services, which is, we'll put a beautiful ad in our paper, and no one gains really. The business owner doesn't get anything from that ad, and it's just very sad. That's something that I would like to correct to get a broader knowledge and understanding of marketing tactics that do work, marketing strategies that do work, and help businesses that way. So that's really my goal.
Yeah, I like that. And thank you. I have to say, thank you for not giving the traditional why answer, because it does make the interview a little bit better. I think you're right. I think everyone's why, in a sense, is, their family, their loved ones. But I just, again, like that you boiled down to it. You're like, hey, you know what? It is about the money. And there's reasons why still behind that, why it is for the money. It's enjoyable. I think that when you are able to want to help people, as you mentioned, more than just, it comes back to you. And so when that's your passion to do something like that, I know for me personally, like I love having someone like you on the show and hopefully connecting you with some future business or something like that. For me, that's something I would consider my why. And yes, it's like tied to my family and everything, but just thank you for sticking away from the traditional I love my family why and giving us something a little bit more hearty.
I try to do that. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. And so for anyone listening, and we'll circle back to this again at the end of the interview, but what does your ideal client look like? What kind of people would you like to have reach out to you? What products would they be selling? Or help me get a clear.
Yeah, okay, no problem. So I would definitely deal with any small business, someone that doesn't have a $100,000 marketing budget. There's one primary character of my ideal client, and that is somebody who is willing to take responsibility for their own business. There's a popular question that's asked of marketers that if your techniques are so good, so listen, do your technique, do whatever you do, and when we see the results, then I will pay you. And my response to that is that results come from your business, not from me. And if you're not going to take responsibility for your business, then I really can't work with you. I see my role as somebody who will educate you as to the options, as to somebody who will put in place the tactics that we can discuss as options, but ultimately it is the business owner's business and the business owner's responsibility to carry it through. So my primary target would be a business owner that understands that the business will not be successful unless they have a passion to make it work, to succeed in that. And on a second note, somebody who I think would find me very attractive is a business owner who has put money towards marketing and not seen the results, because I think that I will very easily be able to go and point out why exactly previous things have not brought results and try to map a way forward of things that you could have some sort of return on investment. So a business owner that's been burned that's somebody who I could speak to better. If a business owner hasn't tried marketing yet, then they'll probably first want to try what everyone else is doing. There are people posting on LinkedIn constantly. What's the best place to advertise on, Facebook or Google? And I try commenting that, listen, what are you putting in those ads? Who's your target audience? What type of funnel do you plan on bringing them through? There are so many more questions to ask than simply, where should I advertise? And if somebody is only asking, where should I advertise, then there's a lot more education that has to be done, usually by life's hard knocks, before they can actually come to appreciate the services that I offer.
Mm-hmm. And one thing you mentioned earlier that I really liked was basically reverse engineering that sales approach through marketing, building up that fan base that you referenced or that following. And then after you've built up that following of the particular brand, figuring out what to sell at that point instead of trying to sell something from the beginning. I guess you have to do that strategically, which is what you're good at. I really like that approach, and it's something that I am going to continue to keep in mind moving forward.
Yeah, so I'll just reference Jim Cockrum again, who was one of my biggest influencers in the marketing sphere. And he just constantly hammers this home. He calls it FYA, find your audience. He says whenever somebody comes to him with a business idea, hey, Jim, do you think I should do this? Hey, Jim, I have this great product. Hey, Jim, I have this great course. So he just looks at them and says, okay, where's the audience? If you have the audience, great, go for it. If you don't have the audience, well, don't invest too much in what you're doing, because it's very far from guaranteed that you'll be successful. It's very likely that you'll fail. So if you get the audience together before, great, you're on a roll. If not, you're in big trouble.
Yeah, and this is another thing that I remember you posted on LinkedIn not too long ago. I'm going to need you to re-quote it because I can't remember. It was something about a 90% discount. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Let me just think about that. 90%. Yeah, I got it. Yeah. that was a little quote that I thought up, which I thought was pretty clever.
It's great.
Which is that people are very often, this goes in any business, which is a business is confronted about their pricing and like, hey, you pulled this off in a half hour or an hour. Why are you charging me $300 or even $1,000? And I know for myself, I build messenger bots, and the going rate for a messenger bot is, starting level, it could be $1,000, $1,500. I could pull that bot together in 45 minutes. So is it really right for me to charge $1,000 or $1,500 for a bot that I built in 45 minutes? And the answer is yes, because the quote goes like this: Mr. Business Owner, you would like me to charge hourly. I do charge hourly. I charge for the amount of hours that it would have taken you to do this, which means the amount of time you'd have to, first of all, you'd have to find the right software and the right resources. After finding those resources, you have to learn the resources. After learning the resources, you have to put them into practice. So I take into account all of those hours that you would have spent bumping around, and I calculate the value of those hours to you, and then I give you a 90% discount. So you're welcome for the charging hourly, which actually I am doing, because for someone to start from scratch and put together the bot that I'm putting together in 45 minutes would definitely take 20 hours or 30 hours of trial and error. And yeah, that's worth $1,500. It is.
And it's worth that quote, that answer right there. Hopefully someone besides me takes that one moving forward, because I know I definitely will.
Great.
What advice, Yehudah, do you have for aspiring business owners in your industry?
That's a good question, because really I am just, even though I started fan-based marketing last year, I only started taking it full throttle about a month and a half ago. So I'm really just starting out just like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
I did learn something very fascinating from a brilliant lady I just met on LinkedIn. Her name is Esti Rand, and she invited me into it. She thought that a course that she is presenting right now would be beneficial to me. And the reason is I described everything that I can do marketing-wise. And she said very bluntly, those are tactics. You need to learn how to do strategy. And she was absolutely right. I understood that right away. Strategy is more of a long-term goal. It's more of what your core is and how you bring that out, which is why really until 3 weeks ago, I probably would not have known what to do with a business that was not established. A business that's established has their core, and they usually have their why, even if they're not aware of it. And then I could suggest various tactics in order to get their business out to the masses. Now, if a business is just starting out, as I was, I really was in the dark because strategy is so much more than that. Strategy is, if you don't have a why, then find your why, find your profitable why. It's not just finding a why, it's finding a why that people actually pay for. Mm-hmm. It's building up a personality, building up an image, building up the core of the company that you are going to be giving over to people for a price. Now, a business that's in business for 2 years, 3 years, they probably have that down because people have been paying them. If somebody is just starting out, well, no one's ever paid you anything for your service, so you probably don't have a lot of that worked out. And, at this point, I could just say I wouldn't even coach someone in this. I would just send them to Esti Rand because she's doing a great job in that course. Maybe after I graduate, then I analyze what exactly it has done for me, and then I would be able to coach other people with that. But for business owners that are starting off, it's very, very fundamental to keep in mind that don't go after tactics. Tactics will work better for an established business. What you really need is a strategy. You have to have a very strong self-definition. You have to have a very strong definition of your why. You have to be able to communicate that why to others and translate that into products, into likable products that people are going to want. So there's a lot of work to be done. It's not terribly complicated. It's not terribly hard, but it is terribly important. So that's really the primary thing I would tell someone starting out. You got to have more than tactics. Make sure they have a strategy. And listen, I'll just give Esti Rand that shout out because I think she's doing a fantastic job with her course.
Yeah, and I want to make sure we have her name spelled properly here. So she goes by Esti Rand?
Yes. It's E-S-T-I-E, and her last name is R-A-N as in Nancy, D.
R-A-N-D. Perfect. Yeah, we're gonna put a link to her information in the show notes as well.
Right.
And here we go. Yehudah, a chance for everyone listening to feel like they got to know you on a different level today. We got 3 fun questions to close this out. Mm-hmm. First one is, what is your favorite beverage? Second one is, what is your favorite black and white movie? So we'll just say old movie. Okay. And who has been your favorite client so far?
Okay, so as far as my favorite beverage, I would just have to say water. We barely bring soda into the house. When it's around, I like drinking it, but I go for water. That's my go-to. So okay. I'll have to answer that. That's pretty boring. Sorry about that. My favorite black and white movie. So I actually have not watched very many movies, and for sure not very many black and white ones. I would have to say The Wizard of Oz because it has that black and white scene. Yeah. I'm not so familiar with others. Yeah, sorry, I don't know. These fun questions.
That's a good. Actually, I think Wizard of Oz, I was thinking to myself, like, how would I answer this? I think that was going to be my answer.
Oh, okay, great. So, I wouldn't say that the black and white part was the most fun part of the movie. As a kid, I thought it was like boring. I just fast forward straight to the Munchkins that are in full color, technically. But I'd say that that's my favorite black and white movie. Now, as far as my favorite client, as I said, I am just starting out, and I don't have actual clients yet. I am building my base. My favorite ideal client would be somebody who takes his or her business very, very seriously, has their own passion, would not even think possibly of asking me, why don't I not take payments until the business is successful, because they understand that the success of a business depends entirely on the business owner, and whatever tricks a marketer is going to come up with is not going to replace that passion and that drive for success. And any of those wonderful people that are out there, and there are many of them, it would be a pleasure to work with them.
Yeah, and I would say, honestly, from experience, anyone listening, now is the perfect time to partner or work with Yehudah because he's getting started. I know there's a lot of people out there who are incredibly successful, but they also have a full book of clients, and maybe their attention to detail is not quite as good as what you'll get right here with Yehudah Greenberg. So that's my sales pitch for you.
That's a great plug. Thank you. I'll have to incorporate that into mine.
All right. Well, Yehudah, what's the best way for anyone listening to get in touch with you?
Okay, so my email address is pretty easy, if you could get my name right, which is YEHUDAH, that's Yehudah, at FBMplus.com. That's F as in Frank, B, baseball, M is Marvin, plus.com. And, just shoot me an email over there, and I'd be glad to speak with anyone.
Perfect. Yehudah, thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, Adam. It's really been a pleasure.
Guys, we'll catch you in the next episode. Remember, in all you think, say, and do, take it to the next level.